All right, let's talk about something I'm pretty sure almost everyone has experienced. You wake up, your heart is just pounding, and you are absolutely convinced you've just failed a huge final exam that you didn't even know you were taking. If that sounds familiar, well, you're in the right place. We're going to dive into this super common, super stressful thing, the exam dream.
So, picture this. It all starts with a scene just like this one, which is actually a real dream someone reported. You're sitting in an exam hall. You look down, and the textbook is totally new. Pages haven't even been cracked open. And right next to you, a classmate, we'll call him Dr. Voyage, who's just breezing through it, totally prepared. That cold wave of panic just washes over you. It's a feeling we all know, right? And understanding why our brain cooks up this very specific scenario, that's the key to figuring out what the dream is really trying to tell us.
See, here's the thing. This dream isn't really about a test, not at all. It's a story. It's actually a pretty sophisticated narrative that our brain builds to process some very real pressures from our waking life. So, what's the story it's telling?
Well, the emotional world of this dream is basically a war zone. On one side, you've got that raw gut punch of fearing failure. That unopened book is the perfect symbol for it. Then you add in that anxiety of comparing yourself to others, seeing someone else just cruise by while you feel like you're drowning. But, and this is what's so interesting, there's another feeling in there too, this little spark of confidence, this belief that, hey, maybe I can still pull this off. It's this clash that researchers call a strain imbalance, which is really just a fancy way of saying you feel like you have a mountain to climb and only about 10 minutes to do it.
Okay, so to really understand this story, we first have to learn the language it's written in. Dreams don't speak in English, right? They speak in images, in feelings. And the real trick is to get the difference between just a random image and a really powerful symbol.
Which brings up a pretty big question. What are the actual building blocks of a dream? It's not just random static from your brain. Our minds are using a very specific set of tools to create these little movies for us every night. And here is the single most important distinction. Think of a sign like the word tree. It's pretty neutral. It just points to the big leafy thing outside. Not a lot of emotional baggage there. But a symbol, like the dream image of falling, oh, that's completely different. It's loaded with emotion. It's not about physics. It's about that terrifying feeling of losing control over your life.
This is exactly where symbols get all their power. In psychology, a symbol is what's called an attractor node. Just think of it like a little gravity well in your mind. It just pulls in all the related feelings, anxieties, and memories about a certain topic and squishes them down into one single powerful image, like an exam or the act of falling. And it turns out these symbols basically come in two main flavors. You have your object symbols. These are things or places like a house, a road, or, you guessed it, an exam. But then you also have action symbols, which are all about processes, like falling or flying or running. They both pack an emotional punch, but they represent different kinds of stress, a static challenge versus an ongoing struggle.
So, how does all this circle back to our dream about being unprepared? Well, now that we have this new understanding of symbols, we can see that the exam isn't just some random backdrop for the dream. No way, it's the entire point of the story. It is the climax.
You know, most exam dreams follow a pretty classic three-act structure. First up, you have the pre-exam phase where all the anxiety starts building. You can't find your pen, you're running late, the book is blank. Then, boom, the climax, the exam itself. This is the moment of pure, intense emotion. Finally, there's the post-exam phase, but, and this is key, the dream usually ends right at the climax, leaving you hanging in that moment of maximum tension.
And that's why it leaves you hanging. The exam itself is the story's gravitational center. Every single drop of anxiety you have about being judged, about being unprepared, about failing, it all gets pulled into that one powerful, high-stakes moment.
Okay, but here's where it gets really fascinating. The meaning of this incredibly powerful symbol, it isn't fixed. Just like the real tests in our lives change, the meaning of the exam dream actually evolves right along with us, perfectly reflecting the pressures of whatever life stage we're in.
Think about it. When you're a kid, the exam dream is all about pleasing adults, parents, teachers. Then when you're a teenager, it morphs into being about social judgment, about fitting in. As an adult, now it's about your job performance, a big presentation, or just the weight of your responsibilities. And later in life, that same dream can become this really profound existential trial, a kind of final review asking, did I live a meaningful life? It's the same symbol, but a completely different test. So, what do we actually do with all this information? How can we turn this into a tool? This is where we flip the lens around and start looking at what our own dreams might be trying to show us.
Let's go back to Dr. Voyage for a second. The guy who was totally prepared. What was his deal? Well, a person in a dream isn't always some deep, complex symbol. Sometimes they're just a memory. Or, like in this case, Dr. Voyage is probably what we'd call a narrative role player. His only job in the story is to stand there and be a stark contrast, to literally turn up the volume on the dreamer's own feelings of being left behind.
And that brings us to the biggest takeaway here. Your exam dream is not just some random, meaningless panic attack in the middle of the night. You should think of it more like a very detailed, very structured report on the pressures in your real life. It's not a prophecy telling you that you're going to fail, it's a diagnostic tool telling you where you feel like you're falling short.
So, the next time you wake up from that dream, instead of just shaking it off, maybe ask yourself, what test am I really facing in my life right now? Your brain is using this ancient, powerful, symbolic language to tell you something really important about yourself. So the only question left is, what story is it trying to tell you?